like science.
I like science.
I like science.
And here we are
Science.
I was
again.
wondering which one of us was going to start.
Happy Flag Day, everybody.
Flag Day.
Most romantic day of the year. Don't ask me
As
why.
Is it the North Dakotans would call it? Maybe Minnesotans too.
Yeah,
Flag.
well, flag. Yeah. So Dave and I actually got engaged on Flag Day, and my parents were married on Flag Day. And then two of my favorite authors wrote intertwining books about a Flag Day festival
A Flag Day festival. That's
because it's the most romantic day of the year.
okay. It's something I didn't even know it would exist until you just mentioned it. So
It's
Flag
just
Day
fiction.
Festival.
It's fiction. It's
Okay.
but it's fun. It's fun. So happy Flag Day. Also, if you're not listening to this because you're out protesting the fascist government, good for you.
Mm.
Good for you.
Yep,
So,
no King's Day.
yep, you can catch up on the podcast later. So, well done, you.
Yep.
So here we are, at the penultimate episode of Deep Space Nine.
And what a weird episode.
It is a strange episode.
It doesn't feel like a penultimate episode.
It really
And
doesn't.
with Dogs of War being the title, you think, oh yeah, let's get into this. And you're watching like, okay, one of the 100,000 stories in this is about war. So this felt, of all the Deep Space Nine episodes I can recall, this felt the most like we were just watching an episode of a soap opera.
Mm,
And they were
fair.
catching up on the stories of multiple characters.
Mm-hmm.
And just a little, oh, what's going on with these couple? What's going on with this character? And just a little touch of each. We get just a little, like a little setup. But I guess, if we're next to the very, very last episode of the series, it's like, okay, here's some setup for how we're going to conclude all these different storylines for all these different characters. And they all get a little bit of airtime. And so nothing really seems to get too resolved in this one episode. It's all setup.
Mm-hmm.
They're all putting Chekhov's gun on the mantle in this one.
Yeah. Well, there are some things that are actually getting paid off, like Rom becoming Nagus.
Yeah, but even
And
that's felt like it was a setup for Rom being Nagus, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
yeah, him accepting the position, but he's not quite there yet.
Yeah, but he doesn't have time to be there yet. The only time we
Yeah.
really see Rom in action as Nagus is in Lower Decks.
Right, right. And you see how well he's doing it with the setting up agreements with the Federation is by having them read through a contract and stuff just to see how carefully they read it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's like, how far
It's
can we trust you in creating a relationship and joining the Federation?
yeah. I think that Rom is smart in the way that Ferengi are needed.
Right.
And because that's the problem with rampant capitalism is it's unsustainable in the long term.
Oh my God, the way they're just talking about the unbridled greed, and it's like, what, regulations? Protecting the environment?
Protecting workers,
Protecting workers? What is this? Labor rights?
fair wages.
Fair wage taxation? They're using the T word?
I did really actually enjoy that, even though I don't usually like any of the Ferengi stuff.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, the Grand Nagus just like nails on a chalkboard.
Mhm.
It's like, oh man,
Yeah, it's
just
a
such an annoying character.
very annoying character. But at least we got Brunt out of it. Yeah, Jeffrey
Yes.
Combs playing two different
Oh,
roles in the same episode.
yep.
And it was really good because honestly, if you didn't know it was Jeffrey Combs playing Brunt, you wouldn't think that it was Jeffrey Combs.
Yeah, the makeup is so extreme as Brunt that you're like, did they recast for this role? It's like, no, he's in there somewhere.
Nope. Brunt has been Jeffrey Combs since Brunt first came on the scene.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting that when you're no longer in a position of power, how obsequious you become
Yeah,
for
he's
the new
a
ruler.
sycophant for sure.
Yeah.
Just on his knees kissing the ring.
Yeah, pretty
And
much.
as soon as he finds out Rom is, he tries to get right in on his side, and they're
Hmm.
not having it.
Yep. That's the thing. I think that Rom in the future, especially in that Lower Decks episode, leans into his public perception about how he's kind of slow. He's not what
Mm.
people would recognize as an intelligent leader, blah, 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 which is all nonsense, of course.
Well, it is in the performance.
Yes. Well, that's the thing. It is in the performance, and that's what makes it great.
Yeah, there's something that's borderline offensive on how stupid Rom is made to appear.
But he's not stupid,
Yeah.
and it's shown throughout Deep Space Nine. You get more and more of
Yeah.
actually how smart he is, just because he doesn't, let's call him neurodivergent. He doesn't
Mm.
function on the same level as Quark, but
Yeah, he
that
doesn't
isn't a
have that,
detriment.
yeah, that financial savvy, but that's because he's more emotionally intelligent, and that kind of system, that libertarian, free market enterprise system does not gel with emotional intelligence.
No, it
You have
sure
to kind
doesn't.
of turn off that part of yourself and just accept that you're going to exploit people to make a profit off of them.
Hmm.
And you're going to exploit the environment to make a profit. You're going to basically exploit anything you possibly can to make as much money as possible and improve your own conditions.
Yep.
And, that's really not what the letter of the law of libertarianism is, but that's the function of it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because there's this self-government through reason aspect to libertarianism that typically gets ignored because nobody has that level of reason that they can self-govern. They're
Yeah.
not there yet.
Nope.
And the fact that so many libertarians exploit and the manner in which they exploit shows that they can't self-govern
Hmm.
because they're not at that level.
Big surprise there.
Yeah.
So.
So, yeah, Rom has the emotional intelligence. He's got that engineering know-how. So
Hmm.
he's got more like book and kind of just mechanical smarts. But as for the financial aspects of things, yeah.
I
But
think.
he did end up buying the bar for super cheap.
Yep.
So there was that because he
That was a
got
good deal.
to Quark when he was distracted, having him sell the bar for what, 5,000
Gold bar,
gold
five
bars?
5,000 bars, yes, of
Yeah.
press latin, or was it bricks?
I think it might have, no, because they were talking about bricks later on with Brunt wanting to
Mm,
get a position in the government.
okay.
And so that was a bribe to get into position. I think they agreed on 60 bricks
Okay.
because
Fair.
one was
So,
like 50 and the other one's 70. It's like 60 agreed. So I think
yep.
it was bars to get the bar, but maybe I'm confused because bar and bar,
Yep.
just saying bar so many times, you kind of get confused as to which one they're talking about.
Well, anyway, it's Quark's own fault that he was distracted, so he can't blame it on being tricked.
Yep. And even the poor communication between Quark and the Nagus because of the rains over Ferrighanar, toxic rains over Ferrighanar,
Hmm.
and the Nagus thinking he was talking to Rom and not Quark and offering the position to succeed, which is weird because
Well,
it gets passed down familiarly. I guess the Nagus gets to choose the successor. There's no elections or anything. So I
no.
wonder if that's something that will change under Rom. That Rom's not going to be handing off the scepter. It'll go to whoever gets elected.
Yeah, well, Moogie did as much work as she could
Yeah.
with the Grand Nagus, and that's why Ferenginar is now no longer this, you know, place where you screw
Yeah.
each other over for a slip of Latinum.
Yeah,
So,
she helped destroy the patriarchy.
yes,
She's
she
there as
did.
an advisor, and
She gets
women
to
are
wear
allowed to
clothes
wear
now. Nobody
clothing,
bats an
and
eye.
they get to invest their own money.
Hmm.
So it's not all the men handling business.
Yep.
And the
So
fact that they find it offensive when the woman wears clothing, on
yeah,
Ferenginar.
it's totally
Even if it's
sexist.
their own mother. They were
Completely
accustomed to seeing
sexist.
their mother naked because that was the way things functioned in that society. It's just
Uh,
weird.
Cat wants to leave the room. Go on, bud. Go on. He then stops in the crack of the door, and so I had to pat his butt.
Yeah, get him to
Yeah.
leave.
So yeah, I again, like I said, I'm not really into all the Ferenginar stuff.
Yeah.
So um
But
yeah,
Rom becoming Nagus is pretty major in the whole Ferengi storyline in Deep Space Nine. That was
indeed.
pretty consequential. So to see that in this episode.
Yeah. That's probably most of the movement we see in
That's
this
probably like
episode.
the biggest thing that gets resolved.
Yeah.
Though I guess there's the romance between Ezri and Bashir.
Yeah. And how awkward for Worf. But
Yeah.
what are
Well,
you
he
gonna do?
tried to make it work with Ezri, and it just didn't because Ezri's a different person.
Yeah.
So yeah,
So
they just did gel. So, things
yeah.
come and go.
Yeah, it's that's the weird thing about the Trill is that just because they carry their former host within them, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll have the same feelings for the people around them
Yeah.
that their former host knew.
Well, the Trill even say that, if you get a new host, don't just live the same life. You want to go out and explore different things. You want to meet new people because that's the whole idea
That's the
is you've
point.
got
Yeah.
this symbiote in you and its whole thing is experience and memory and carrying those on to the next generation and of, the host. So the more experiences you have, the greater the next host will be because the more they can pull from through their memories and you're just living the same life over and over again. You're not really expanding, you're not broadening your horizons. So
Yeah.
it makes sense that, Esri would move on because that would be the advisable thing to do.
Well, and not only that, she's a psychologist, she's a
Hmm.
counselor.
Yeah.
So that's a different path. I
Yep.
mean, it's still within sciences, but it's a
Yeah, it's
different
social
kind of
sciences. Yeah.
yeah, it's a different path. So
Than physical science
she's such
or,
a
yeah,
tiny little thing. It's like I
life
could just pick her
sciences.
up and put her in my pocket.
She is the ittiest bittiest thing, which also makes sense how she and Worf went gel.
Yeah, well,
Because
uh,
Jadzia, she was, pretty tough
yeah,
in her
she
own right.
was.
But Esri, she's like a little glass figurine. There's no way she and Worf can,
Yeah,
I don't think they're compatible.
you
Bashir, on the
would.
other hand, yeah, I can understand those two having
Yeah,
a functional romance.
they have a lot of the same interests as far as well, that's the thing about medicine is it kind of straddles the line between social and clinical.
Yeah, you're stuck between the life sciences and the social sciences because part of being a good doctor is understanding the psychology of your patient
Yep.
and being able to properly diagnose and properly treat your patient and get them to trust you. And so, yeah, there's a closer relation. And same with being, a counselor, because there's some physical ailments that come along with poor mental health.
Hmm.
Is like lack of sleep and anxiety and stress. These
Yeah.
can lead to sickness and illness. And so they're really similar in that regard.
Yep.
So I could see the
Because
two of them having much to discuss with one another.
indeed,
Understanding of neurology and neuropathy. Yeah.
neuropathy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Neurological
s-
disorders, that sort of thing.
Side note, meaning nothing. I am really tired of romance novels that have one giant man and one tiny woman. Stop taking our tall men. Stop
Well,
it.
we see that so much in Utah is the
Oh my
guy who's
God.
like over 6 feet tall and the woman that's under five, and it's just like, what are
Yeah.
you doing?
It's just weird to me. It's like
Yeah, it's
this
like, how
is
does that even work?
yeah. And me being a tall woman is just like to see, you're shorter than I am. I had to
Yeah,
find me a short man
yeah,
because no tall men would have me.
yeah. She had to settle for me.
I did not settle. I did not settle. I
Yeah,
chose.
It's the tall guy, little lady thing just reminds me of like Master Blaster from Beyond Thunderdome, you know? Just what
Uh,
does she do? Does
mm,
she ride around on his shoulders and tell him what to do and
I
stuff? It's like,
I don't know. Yeah.
yeah, it's just weird. It's like Penn and Teller or Abbott and Costello. It looks like a comedy troupe. Laurel and
Mm,
Hardy.
yeah.
Just this comically small woman with this comically large gentleman.
Well, and the
It's a
thing
weird
is that
thing.
there this isn't as much of a big deal anymore, but back when we were dating, there was still a lot of stigma about the woman being taller than the man.
Yep.
Like for some
Now I say it
reason
all the
that
time.
yeah, I see it all the time too.
Yeah.
Nobody cares anymore.
No.
But back then it was still a thing. So,
Also, women driving
yep.
used to
You
be
never
at the
drive.
men. Yeah, I don't ever drive.
You never
I get
drive.
anxiety.
Yeah, well, you think I don't?
That's true. It's like driving's just an anxious thing.
Yeah. I've just had more experience. That's the
Yeah.
only difference. But I still have anxiety every time I
Yeah.
get in a car.
Yeah.
So, because I have been in a car accident that,
I've been in a few myself.
yeah, it's not a pleasant thing. And it's something that I have to do because otherwise I can't get places.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah,
So yeah, the romance. He was kind of creepy at first, and it seemed like he was stalking her, but apparently she also had feelings for him, which they had to point out. I think it was O'Brien that says, "Well, he likes her, she likes him. Why don't they just do it already?" Worf's like,
yeah.
"I'd rather not talk about this." Basically, it's like don't want
It
to
was yeah.
interfere.
It was basically more of a facial expression. Worf got a
Yeah.
lot of facial expressions and not a lot of dialogue in this
I think,
episode.
yeah, when they're kissing at the end in that elevator, he sends the elevator back down so he doesn't have to watch them.
Yeah, fair
And also
enough.
give them privacy, so there's that.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was uh, a bit of fluff that I feel like could have been
Yeah.
resolved earlier before this
Yeah,
episode.
it
And
chewed up a lot of time in this because there's kept them bumping into each other and kind of talking around the issue of the relationship and then talking about the relationship, but evasively, like, well, really, we want to maintain our friendship. And really, if we get into a romance and it becomes more than that, then what happens if that romance fails? We can't get the friendship back. That typical bullshit.
mhm.
Because there's a number of people that can have a romance and still be friends when they fall out of love, because that's just, the evolution sometimes.
Well,
There's plenty of people that are still friends with their exes. I mean, it doesn't always happen because often when the exes become exes, it becomes some kind of betrayal, of
mm,
trust, like cheating or whatever, or they're stealing money from them or something. But if it's just that you fall out of love, that, that the spark fades and you just end up being friends. That happens all the time.
yeah, well, that's the thing is that if you're not friends with your spouse, you are going to have problems.
Yeah, you should be friends first. From that friendship, if there's a spark of romance there, go ahead and pursue it. And if that lasts, great, and you still maintain the friendship because you can be both.
Hmm.
You can be friends and lovers.
Yep,
That does happen.
it does.
And if the you fall out of love, then maybe, be fortunate enough to keep the friendship. So the fact
Yeah.
that she, as a counselor, didn't know any of this or was just falling into the patterns that are false, these false beliefs
Yeah.
that what a relationship can and cannot be and how it progresses. It's like the people that aren't friends first and develop a romance is like, where do you go from there? How do you hang out?
Yeah.
It's just
Because,
weird. It's like this life work balance, but it's like your life romance balance is your friends are outside of your relationship. It's weird.
yep. So that was weird. The only real action we got in this episode was a little bit on Cardassia with
Yeah.
Damar and company. And Kira was there. Damar and Garrick and Kira.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was it,
Also weird.
it was just it was all just weird. It was everything was so I mean, there wasn't even a previously on Deep Space Nine to remind you
Oh, that shoot. Yeah.
what's leading up to this. And it's just like, no, this is the penultimate episode. Everybody will figure it out.
Well, it's really weird because Kira was a freedom fighter against the Cardassians.
Yeah.
And now she's assisting them with their own freedom fighting.
Yes, because they overthrew the fascist government.
Yeah, so they overthrew their own fascist government that was
Hmm.
working with the Dominion, is the idea.
Yeah.
So these are freedom fighters against the authoritarian government that was already existing on top of everything else. So that's
Yeah.
why Kira would work with them, is why she's working with Garrick,
Hmm.
is because they want a more democratic Cardassia, I suppose.
Yeah. They want all of those fuckers out of there. And they're gonna, because basically their world has just been ravaged by the fucking Dominion.
Yeah.
And so they're just, you know, and they've all just that basically the Dominion is telling lies and saying that Damar is dead, the
Mm-hmm.
revolution is over,
Mm-hmm.
etc. ad nauseum, and they're all just like, no, we're not. We have to do something. And there's just the three of them. There is just the three of them. That's all they have. We have Damar, we have Garrick, we have Kira. That's all.
Yeah, because yeah, the 18 rebel bases had been destroyed.
Yep. So, and basically what they do is just all they have to do is start with one group of people, which is what they did. Damar revealed himself. Garrick revealed himself first and was pretending to be a maintenance worker, and they
Right.
didn't have the clearance, and they had set a bomb to go off, etc. And then something's going wrong and they're going to call in more people, and so here's like, we have to do something, and she goes one way and Damar goes the other, and I feel like she's just like, what, where are you going?
Oh, I thought this was a setup. I thought she was gonna go hide in the shadows and basically be the sniper, which is a good thing too. Well,
No, but that's the
Tomorrow's the
thing.
one that came to intercede with the whole Garrick situation to cause a distraction so Kira could sneak attack the very D&D tactics style.
No,
It's like
it
when
wasn't a
Baldur's
sneak
Gate
attack.
3,
It
like,
wasn't a sneak attack. It was, they were waiting for the bomb to go off and it hadn't gone off yet.
yes, but and Garrick was where the explosion would happen and they needed to intercede and cause some kind of distraction, get Garrick out of the blast zone. And so Damar would have to come up to where the guards were questioning Garrick about his papers. And so it's like in Baldur's Gate 3, when I'd go up and talk to a guard and enter a conversation. And then you, being the like ranger rogue outside, could sneak attack while
Mm.
they're distracted. I thought it was a setup like that. Is to Damar approaches to get Garrick out of there, and when the guard drew his weapon against Damar, that's when Kira fired.
See, and that I read that as differently. I read that as Kira trying to keep Damar secret,
Right.
and she was going to go take care of um
Hmm.
Garrick's what's detention, I guess. It wasn't really detention yet, but he had been detained.
Arrest, I guess. Yes.
Yeah.
As- I didn't read it that way because earlier they were talking about how, the Dominion were doing reports and there were reports that Damar was dead, but there were people outside that didn't believe it and that Damar was becoming a legend. And I think Kira and Garrick both understood that this is something they could exploit. And I think Kira herself said that we can turn Damar into a legend. And you do that by exposing Damar to show that he survived, that they couldn't kill him.
Yep.
And so it was instrumental in creating a liberating force to ignite a revolution that the people see that Damar lives.
Hmm.
And I think that's something all three of them agreed on, is to go out there and expose themselves and to get the people of Cardassia behind them in starting a revolution against the Dominion.
Yeah. That just wasn't, that particular aspect of it wasn't very clear to me.
Okay, I thought when they were discussing it in that cellar,
Yeah.
they had a
It's
discussion
possible
about
I
that.
just missed something. So,
Right.
yeah. But that's pretty much the only real movement that we see happen in
Yeah,
this
we get
episode.
a little bit with the founders, and also we
Yeah, but it's
find
just the
out that
founders
Odo.
talking.
Well, yeah, but there's like you were addressing earlier how Cardassia has suffered under Dominion rule, even though they've been complicit. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what happens with the people that bend the knee to fascism, is
Yep.
it doesn't help them in the long run because fascists
No.
don't care about you. They care about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you bend the knee, if you're complicit, if you, I'm trying to think of the word, but if you surrender in advance, it's not going to help you in the long run
No.
because they're still going to exploit you. You're still going to be damaged by whatever policies they enact. And it's not going to, it's going to make you look bad in the eyes of the people because they see you surrendering.
Mm-hmm.
They see you bending a knee. They see you assisting the fascists, and that's what we get with this discussion about the founders retreating, like a tactical retreat back out of the Cardassian system, hold a line that is more easily defensible, and then start rebuilding their battleships, which would leave Cardassia exposed to the Klingons and the Vulcans and the Federation. And you could see on this
Romulans.
guy, the Romulans, um, and you could see on this guy's face, this Cardassian who's the I guess the Nazi sympathizer, the white guy who's working with the Dominion.
Mm-hmm.
You see on his face, it just drops. He's like, "What? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to leave us exposed. What about the Klingons and the Romulans? You're leaving us defenseless against them." And just like, shut up. And yeah, the founders just don't care. They care about
Nope.
themselves. They don't care about you. You're
Mm-mm.
a stepping stone. And
Mm-hmm.
if you're no longer of use to them, they'll just scrap you.
Yeah.
There's no loyalty at all.
Nope.
So why assist them in the first place? Because you think you can share the power. They're not going to share power.
Yeah.
Fascists don't share.
That's
That's
the
the whole
whole
thing. It's
thing.
about selfishness.
Yeah. So
If they
never
shared, they'd be communists.
never join with fascists. Never
Yeah.
believe what fascists tell you because they will betray you. They
Yep.
absolutely will. They need you for, you know, basically you're cattle to them. They
Hmm.
need you to be cattle. And then when they're done with you, they're going to just leave you behind with no food and no water. And you're just going to die in the desert. So, yeah,
It's all
it's,
about how much use you are to them. And when you no longer have any use, they'll just throw you away.
they truly will.
Yeah.
Uh, what else happens? Oh, it like I said, we had two performances from Jeffrey Combs as Wayoon
Right.
and as Brunt. It seems like he had more screen time as Brunt, so that was nice. What's the one other? Oh yeah, Cassidy's pregnant,
Yep. Find out at the very tail end of the episode.
which is weird because I remember that happening earlier than the
Mm.
penultimate episode, but
That's
obviously
memory for you. Yeah.
yeah, it just seems like that happened a lot earlier.
And there's an interesting thing that brought up is they both missed their injections. So there are birth control for both men and women, and I
Hmm.
guess they work in tandem.
Mm.
So if either one of them misses, then the pregnancy will result. But that seemed
Could
kind of
result, I would
yeah,
say.
could result. That seemed kind of a nice equitable way to do birth control is that
Yeah,
both partners get injected.
yeah. It's not just one person's responsibility.
Yeah,
It's
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 both of
two.
theirs.
Yeah,
So, yeah. So
which
they're
is how
both
it should be.
responsible. And I guess under stress, Cisco forgot his. And there's good writing around this too, because it's the news that you're trying to deal with that you're not sad about, but it's still like life-altering news. So you're still trying to balance it. So you're trying
Mm.
not to seem upset because it's actually good news, but at the same time, it's news that's really heavy and that it's easy to mistake somebody's response that they're upset or sad about the announcement of a baby when he's really not. It's just more like, okay, what does this mean for our future? And Cassidy's got that kind of doubt too because of what the prophets said about them getting married and how she'll only bring him grief. And what if that grief comes from the loss of this baby? Is that's a possible future and they just don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you make uh conjectures like that. The whole what if conundrum.
Well, it's kind of tough when it's a what if coming from people who live outside of time and have seen it happen.
Yes, but they didn't say what would happen. They only
Yeah,
said there would be grief. It didn't have any mention of a baby. It didn't have
right.
any of those qualifiers to make anything concrete. So assuming that it would be because they had a baby is just basically what ifing. And it does not serve any good purpose to do that.
So it's like a prophecy, like any other prophecy, no matter how reliable the prophets may or may not be, I suppose. It's
Yeah,
still guessing because they haven't said is specifically what would occur.
yeah.
They only implied that it will result in grief.
Yeah. And knowing how the series ends, I'm assuming that that grief is because they take Cisco into the wormhole and there's no clear indication of if or when he'll be back.
Right. That he's gonna, in some respects, become a prophet himself by
Yeah, that he's going
living
to miss
inside
seeing
the
his kid
wormhole.
grow up.
Yep.
So, yeah. So that's what I took that to mean. But it was there were just so many things in this episode that felt disjointed.
Yeah, it's fragmented. It's a very fragmented episode. And like I said, it's like a soap opera where we just get little touches of each story without the full story.
Mm-hmm.
Just little hints, so we have to watch, the next episode to catch up a little bit more on each person's story.
Yeah.
But with no real promise of resolution, though you would think with, the final
Oh,
episode will wrap it all up and put a button on the whole thing.
and it does for the most part. The one thing that's like the shortest sequence in the entire episode is Odo.
Yep,
Bashir pronounces him, fit and everything. And uh, there's this discussion about he's just like, how did I even, how did I even get infected? And Julian knows. He's
yep.
like, yeah, Section 31 infected you, and they wanted you to infect the rest of the Dominion. And that is to be used like that is
Yeah.
the most abominable thing you can
Mhm.
do to a living creature.
Yeah, they used him as a vector for possible genocide.
Mm-hmm.
And when Starfleet found out about it, or the Federation found out about it, they just shrugged their shoulders and went, well, nothing we can do about it now because if we give them the cure, which we could do, it's just going to strengthen the Dominion's hand and prolong this war. So we
Mm-hmm.
best just roll with whatever uh, Section 31 decided to do. And Odo points out that that's a convenient relationship, that you
Mm-hmm.
can deny that you're working with Section 31, but when they do something that is abhorrent, you just look the other way because it
Yep.
benefits you.
Yep.
And how convenient for you that you can just shrug and just say, oh, well, that you take no responsibility because you claim that Section 31 isn't a part of you.
And what's interesting is that rears its ugly head again in Star Trek Picard
Right.
season 3, because that's the whole thing with the Shrike. And I can't even remember the name of the woman. I mean, I know who the actor is, but I can't
Yeah,
remember
Amanda
the name of
Plummer.
the character.
Yeah.
Um, who's is basically this group of changelings,
Hmm.
and they were the ones experimented on in order to, develop this. What's the word I'm looking for here? Horrible,
Illness?
horrible infection.
Infection? Yeah.
Yeah, this horrible, horrible thing.
Well,
Yeah,
bioweapon, really.
bioweapon. That's a good word for it. This bioweapon. So I actually liked that they tied that in, because we don't really hear much about changelings after the series finale of Deep Space Nine.
That's why I was a little disappointed that it ended up being the Borg again in season 3 of Picard, that the changelings were working with the Borg
Mm-hmm.
to arrange all this. I thought just have the changelings be the big bad and leave it
Yeah,
at
well,
that.
see, that's the interesting thing about the Borg, though, is that they were dying off too
Yeah.
because of, human interference,
Yeah,
I
because of the
guess,
Federation.
because of the Federation. But the thing is they did try to destroy everything.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to stop coming. And so, yeah, they did what had to be done. but it wasn't necessarily the same situation.
Well, that's the crazy thing about the Borg is are they really destroying it or are they like colonialists that just try to assimilate everything into their culture?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. Once, I mean, if you assimilate, if we were to assimilate into another culture, we would still have our own thoughts and our own feelings. When you're
Right.
assimilated into the collective, that's it. You're not an individual anymore.
Yeah, that's the weird thing about the Borg is the things they say they aren't. It's like they say they're collective, but they're really not because they follow a queen. That they say they take the best of people, but they leave out things like art and culture and stuff that are significant. But they leave that out and they just take stuff like physical advantages and things like that. And even so, the Borg qualities, the fact that they rely so much on cybernetic implants and stuff is like, well, how much are they assimilating from people really?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with being a cyborg because that's what Borg,
Yeah.
the shortening is.
It's-
Borg is the short term of cyborg because that means you're part machine, part
Yeah.
organic.
It'd be interesting to see a enemy or an alien race that is more in keeping on what the Borg kind of say they are, which I guess is the closest thing is the Trill.
Mm.
Is that that's something that, they do assimilate aspects of the hosts, the symbiote is kept in,
Yes, but it
just a little from
doesn't.
this, a little bit of that, and then assimilate into the future generations.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They don't overtake the
No,
host's personality.
no.
They don't overtake
There's
their physical their motor skills and anything like that.
Yeah,
They
it's like a shared thing
yeah.
because there's bits of the previous hosts that come out every once in a while.
Yeah, well all of the memories are still there.
All the memories, certain skills, like if there's some musicianship that might come through in a next host, like one plays
Or
the violin, you'll might find that the new host also plays the violin.
or really good with a bat lift.
Yeah. Yeah, little things like that,
Yeah.
just or preference for certain beverages or foods, but that's, biological too because of taste buds.
Hmm.
So that's not necessarily something that's going to follow from host to host, but there's an assimilation there of thoughts,
Yeah. But
attitudes, skills.
it doesn't compromise one or the other.
Right.
So because that's what the Borg does. The Borg takes you and you're no longer you.
Right.
The
You're
body is still there,
collective.
but now you're Borg.
Yeah.
You are all you hear are the voices of everyone else. Everyone works for the good of the hive, etc.
Yep.
So big difference there.
Yeah. Until they introduce the queen, and then they're kind of like, oh, are they a collective, really? Or are they answering to her?
Well, is a honeybee hive a collective?
Well, they didn't have to go that direction. I don't think a honeybee hive is a collective. I think they are answering to the queen.
Yeah,
They
but
they
they
aren't a
all work
collective.
together
Yeah, for
to
the
make
benefit
new
of
babies and whatnot.
yeah,
And then honey is a byproduct.
right.
So, oh well, we could argue semantics all day.
Yeah, it's just it'd be interesting to have like a pure collective where it is pure group mind set without any one leader. But I could see, that's how they would do that for story purposes and to have a single bad representing the whole of the Borg
Hmm.
rather than the Borg's entirety being a thing.
Yeah,
There's something else that had the hegemony? What sci-fi series? Oh, that's the Gorn.
yeah, the Gorn
The Gorn
hegemony,
hegemony. Yeah, that sounds
hegemony.
more in keeping with that kind of mindset, is it's a whole group thing.
Yeah,
That there doesn't seem to be any outliers. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's the thing about the Gorn is that the Gorn we knew very little about
Yeah.
until recently because the only time we see them in the original series. I don't recall ever seeing them in TNG or Deep Space Nine. I could be wrong on that,
I think there's a
but
Gorn that appears in Enterprise.
yeah, I was getting to that.
Yeah,
I was getting to that, that there is a Gorn appearance in Enterprise, but it's not actually it's mirror universe shit.
right,
And I hate those episodes.
right.
I hate that two-parter with every
Yeah,
fiber of my being.
mirror episodes are typically diminishing returns.
Depends. I think
Yeah.
in Discovery that it was done better.
Yeah, there's bits of Discovery Mirror Universe that's all right. It's yeah, you still don't need it, you know.
Maybe don't need it, but people want it,
Mm,
so they do it because, yeah, like all of the mirror stuff from Deep Space Nine, hated it.
right.
Did not like it at all.
Though Sexy Kira is fun.
Sexy Kira is amazing. No complaints there, but it's just, ugh,
But yeah,
just
you
didn't enjoy it.
just don't need it.
Yeah.
They're often filler episodes. You just could do without them.
Yep. Yep. I mean, the first one, the very first one was interesting
Yeah.
because it opened up this whole new idea of well, it wasn't even an idea. It's just physics, you know? They're quantum realities are a thing. So,
Well, even for the time, you know, the
yeah.
1960s, the concept of alternate realities and quantum mechanics is pretty radical.
Yeah.
You know, that's something that's kind of passé now because, you know, just look at the Marvel universe and stuff like Fringe and various other alternate reality settings. It's like, oh yeah, this is old hat at this stage. And even kids, you know, they don't really dumb it down for kids anymore because
Mm-mm.
it's such a ubiquitous concept now that even in children's entertainment, they just go, yeah, it's an alternate universe. And it was like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. So, yeah. Anyway, do we have
Gods
anything
of
else to
War.
talk about? Gods of
We
War?
touched
Dogs of War?
upon everything in this episode, and it's a lot. It's a
It's a
dense
lot,
episode,
but
but with not a whole lot happening.
basically a lot of stuff, but none of it really movement except
Yeah.
for, Damar revolutionizing people. So, which, I think in this day and age, with our ability to use really good digital effects, they could have made a much bigger crowd to see Damar's return because it seemed
Yeah.
like it was just something at a local eatery where people
Well,
were just
it was the
coming out.
beginnings of it too.
I know.
So this
But
was
it
the
just,
start. I mean, this was the first, you know, bombing of this small group of revolutionaries, and then they'll
yeah,
expand from there.
right.
So, you know,
No,
it's
I
gotta
get that. I just feel
start
like there
small.
could have been more people on set,
Mm,
but
it
doing that
was, yeah.
doing that much makeup, they just weren't going to do that.
I didn't have a problem with it because it was at night. It was in some weird random place. It was probably a small outpost because they didn't want to attack anything too overly guarded. So they had to choose their target wisely because otherwise their chance of success would diminish.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just so happened that this was the time for Damar to expose himself, so to speak, and get the people behind him screaming freedom, which seemed odd considering. And kind of got that kind of conflicted look on Kira's face too, is like, yeah, we're freedom fighters, but you guys are the same guys that occupied our planet not that long ago. So the irony of them
Well, that's the
shouting
thing.
for
It's like
freedom.
they did this to this other race and now it's being done to them and now they know how it feels.
Isn't that typical? That it's
Yeah.
not really a problem until you're the one suffering at the other side of it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Cardassia was due for a reboot. So, I mean, well past due
Mm,
for a reboot, really.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Apparently they
just,
came along too, because we see Cardassians 3,000 or so years later that
oh,
have
yeah.
just been assimilated into the Federation.
Yep. Yep. It was nice to see Cardassians in way in the, what, year 20, what, 2900, 20, 3100, I don't remember.
3,100, is that right? Something like
Something
that? I don't
around
know.
there, 30 something.
It's whatever star dates are.
Yeah. Yeah, but star dates make no sense.
Yeah.
So I'm going by the actual
It's
years.
too big of a digit. It's like 5089.3 is like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. And I think it's just a bunch of bullshit until we get to New Trek. Like, I think when Discovery came in, they started making that make sense as far as whatever system they were using, but the dates made sense as far as,
Right.
oh well, this date isn't just some random thing. It's definitely something in the future because the last star date was this. So
Hmm.
yeah, it was slightly more understandable, but
Right.
still not. So that's Dogs of War, guys.
That is Dogs of War.
And it was a bit of a mess. Just a
It's
smidge.
very fractured, fragmented, overstuffed episode.
Yeah, it gave me whiplash.
Yeah, there's stuff that I don't think we needed to address, like the Bashir Ezri thing,
Hmm.
unnecessary.
Hmm.
I think if you could lift that out of the episode, you could beef up some of the other stuff because I think there were way too many subplots going on. That there
Yeah,
wasn't really like which was the A plot? It seemed like the Nagus thing of all the plots was the A plot in this. I don't think it
I don't know.
really should have been. That maybe
No.
the Dominion War stuff should have been, but that felt kind of fragmented in its own right. They didn't really give that a whole lot of space to breathe. So,
Yeah. It felt frantic, like, ah, shit, we've got to get this shit wrapped up before the
Well,
final
I think that's
episode.
part of the problem is all the storylines. I mean, the Odo thing connects to the Dominion War thing because they those are connected because of the founders.
Yes.
So at least those stories kind of line up.
Hmm.
But the Cassidy's pregnancy thing, the Ezri Bashir thing, the Nagus situation, none of that really contributes
Mm-mm.
to the Dominion War aspect of it. So they're not really holding hands, and so it just feels disjointed.
Extremely. So, yeah. All right, then. So I guess the fun is going to happen, and we're going to find out what our next episode is.
All right.
I need to get to the spreadsheet. Okay. All righty then. So, got my spreadsheet up here. And gosh, I'm going to start having to add to this in a bit.
Yeah. Get new episodes of Strange New Worlds.
Yep. Which, sorry guys, we've already seen the first 5 episodes and we can't tell you anything about them.
Yeah, we saw some screeners.
Yep. Okay. Hey Siri, give me a number between one. I gotta start over.
All
Hey
right.
Siri, give me a random number between 1 and 944.
900 and something?
870, which is absolutely new Trek.
Okay, are we thinking Discovery?
I'm going to find out. 870, 870, 870, 870, 870. Oh, my
Watch
mouse
it
is
be a
so
short treks.
twitchy. No, it's not. It is, oh my God, it's Prodigy for real.
Oh, wow.
It is
Okay.
Ghost in the Machine.
All right.
Prodigy.
So Star Trek Prodigy Ghost in the Machine. I can probably find a song by that title for the uh, playlist on YouTube.
This is so exciting. This is so exciting. Love it. Okay, cool. And this is I believe, yeah, this is close to this is episode 17 of season 1. So, yeah, right before the one of the best episodes I think of the series, which is Mind Walk, which is
Mhm.
where Dax excuse me, where Dahl and Janeway switch places mind-wise.
Oh, right.
That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right then. So yeah, I'll have your homework for 2 weeks hence. And it's Ghost in the Machine, Prodigy season 1, episode 17. So woot woot.
Woot woot.
We still have yet to get some discovery.
It'll come.
It will eventually. Just yeah,
Yeah.
just weird. All right then, guys. Stay safe out there. Fight
Hold
fascism,
on.
and we love you.
Um, well, not goodbye yet, because I'm going to
Yeah,
be sharing some music a little bit, and
yeah,
there's also socials to talk about.
of
So,
course.
um, Douglas McCarthy of Nitzareb passed a couple of days ago. Very sad. And with this episode, with the whole freedom fighting, the Dominion War, the liberation of Cardassia, um, Douglas McCarthy was anti-fascist from the start, very early on. That Total Age. very political in his music, like Violent Playground. Fixmer McCarthy also did the collaboration with this French techno artist by the name of Fixmer. Very sad. By all accounts, a very warm, pleasant, friendly guy. Encountered a lot of bands online that toured with Nitzareb or DJs that played and remixed some of their stuff. And even when my internet friends drove him around while they were touring. And yeah, by just very friendly guy. And it's very sad. Nitsareb's a very influential band, especially in the EBM scene, and one of probably my favorite band from the Sheffield bands, and that is a huge list that includes Human League, Klaktva, Heaven 17, Arctic Monkeys. I mean, there's a lot of great bands that came out of Sheffield, and Nitzareb is like top of that list for me. Other than that, Juneteenth is right around the corner, so I thought I'd share a black artist with you. Militia Vox kind of combines some dark and uh, electronic stuff along with just straight up metal. Her cover of Dead Man's Party is creepy as fuck, so that's something to get in your ears. I believe she has a YouTube video of that. So Militia Vox, just what it sounds like that first episode of Picard that we did, VOX, Militia Vox. Uh, Great stuff on Bandcamp that you'll be able to find. Really cool metal. She's got a great voice, and yeah. So that's my music recommendation this episode, or recommendation. So yeah, get some Nitzareb in your ear. And I've also heard from the same person that drove Douglas around that even Nitzareb, vacillated between those two pronunciations. None of them is really the specific one. You could go Nitzareb or Nitzareb. It's, whatever feels more natural in your mouth. Yeah, that was my music recommendations for the episode.
Right. And you can find me on places.
Places you could find you in places. Okay.
You can find me
that
on and in places.
right.
I'm on Instagram as just Brandy Jackala. I'm on Blue Sky as Brandywine with eyes, no Y's. And Boldly Go will be back. I've
Mm-hmm.
decided you're going to help me with that.
I am. I'm gonna be your co-host on that whenever
Yep.
you don't have guests.
Yep. Which it's because the thing is that there aren't enough women in podcasting, for one thing. And
Yeah.
so all of the women that I know that I would love to have on the show are also really busy.
Yeah, with podcasts of their own. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So and just busy with life.
yeah,
So
that too.
it may be difficult, but Dave is an honorary woman anyway.
Pretty much.
So yeah, he's the most, what's
I've
the
been
word I'm
called
looking for
ma'am
here?
to my face while I've had
You
a goatee.
you have been called ma'am more than once, but there's just you're so good at feminism. You just really
I'd hope so.
you just really are. Just it's not like you're even trying that hard. It's just the
Right.
way you are. And I appreciate that. So yeah, 2 weeks from now, come back and we'll talk about Prodigy season 1, episode 17. And yeah.
And yeah, you know where to find me. DJ Evil Dave, Blue Sky, YouTube, but YouTube has underscores, and Shield Podulation on Blue Sky as well. You can find
Yeah,
us there.
do all the things. All right then. Like I said before, fight fascism, live long and
Hmm.
prosper, and we'll talk to you in 2 weeks.
Fighting fascism is a full-time job.
It is. It really, really is. And Shax would know.
Yep.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah.